Hello, everyone. Wow, lots to talk about this time. First of all, I had every intention of wearing the Major General's outfit, which was originally the Colonel Weather Balloon outfit, but it just wound up being my regular Halloween costume, my go-to Halloween costume. And the hat's a new edition. You might have seen it when I posted that picture from the beard mustache contest. It's sort of my go-to outfit for a lot of things. I've been wearing it at the Dickens Fair around December time. It's just, I kind of like wearing that, even though like the 13-button trousers are just like hell. It's just like, oh, this is why men had valets back in the day. Anyway, yeah, I really should have saved up that KFTY, that TV50 sound clip, for the end of this episode, because this time we're going to be talking about TV. And I hadn't posted that, but there's like a clip of audio from an episode of Solid Gold before that, and I kind of want to go back in time and kick my 11-year-old self, because it goes right up to an announcement that there's going to have Thin Lizzy performing The Boys Are Back in Town. And, like, right as the band is about to play, click, click, click. Would that be abuse if I go back and kick my own self at the age of 11? I don't know. But, yeah, my stupid adult contemporary loving 11-year-old self. And I think that might have been one of the last time Phil Lynott was still alive, so it was probably a lip sync, but you know, they might have done the Blondie thing and done karaoke to a backing track, but you can never tell with these things. But yeah, I'm kind of kicking myself for that. But yeah, I'm going to be talking about television of my youth, and there's a lot to talk about because I was, as you might guess, an avid television watcher. This was when I was very, very young, of course. There was no VCR. There were no videotape recorders. A lot of the times, I do have some preservation of the television of that era, but most of it's on tape because I had an audio recorder, so I could record the audio off television, but I had no way of actually videotaping anything. And when I got a camera, I would take pictures of the television, which didn't really work because, you know, the scan lines would come down and it would be like right in the middle, and there'd be a big black bar in the middle of the picture, so that didn't really work. And I'd also use my film camera. I had an 8mm Bell & Howell hand-cranked movie camera that my used to be my mother's, and I kind of inherited it. She wasn't interested in using it anymore, so I wound up using this 8mm Bell & Howell, which I would point at the TV screen, and you'd still get a little bit of strobing. I was later found out that, you know, it had the frame advance thing. I found out that if you flick that really fast, you get this fast motion. So, and I remember sending that in to get it transferred to videotape, and they said, "We think something's wrong with this film. It looks like it's displaying fast." Yeah, I did that deliberately. But anyway, I should get back on the subject of television, because our first television, I can't even remember what brand it was, but I remember our first television that I had when I was very, very, very young, like up till the age of 5, was still black and white. It's like we still had only a black and white television. And we later got that replaced with the same TV we had for many, many, many years, which is, I think, a Kenmore. I think it was just Sears. I think it just said Sears on it. But it was from Sears. It was just like this big black, I don't know, like 18-inch television from Sears, and we had that for years and years and years. And we actually did have couple of second televisions. There's like a little teeny black and white one, and we later got an RCA, which was, I think, actually bigger than the Kenmore, the Sears television, and it didn't really have as good picture. It didn't have as good a picture as the Sears one did. I mean, the darks were much more, vibrant on the Sears, and the colors on the RCA, even when we first had it, just seemed kind of washed out. And it also didn't have a satisfying a knob. I know this is really nitpicky, but I didn't like the knob on it because it had just a round knob that you had to grab like that. And the Sears TV actually had like a little one of those slots where you could go like that. Anyway, I can't remember what did we have, like a digital TV? Not digital, but one of those ones with the buttons. I know that the woman that my dad dated after my mom died had something like that, where it was like a row of buttons down the side. It was sort of that interim before analog and digital, when cable ready was a big deal around that time. But those are the TVs I remember. It's that little black and white one. I think that audio I recorded was off the RCA, and it might have been the black and white TV, the later black and white TV, the small 13-inch black and white, and I can't remember what. It might have been a Sharp. I'm not sure, but don't quote me on that. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, but TV in the Bay Area was there were the three big ones. The ABC, CBS, NBC. ABC was KGO, Channel 7. NBC was KRON, Channel 4, which I believe is still independent now, I'm not sure. And KPIX, Channel 5, was CBS. And we, because of the area that we were in, we had Cablevision, which was actually a community antenna on top of this hill, because there was this weird hill, it was like a lump, it was kind of like a giant pimple, like in our neighborhood, and it blocked a lot of TV signals. So we had a community antenna on top of that hill, and they would run cables down to, just coaxial cables from there to our houses, and using that we would get all of the San Francisco channels and all of the Sacramento channels. So we would also get KTXL, I think it was channel 40. But yeah, I remember you would switch between channels 3 and 4 because 3 was KCRA in Sacramento and 4 was KRON in San Francisco. And they're both NBC affiliates, and you could like switch back and forth, and sometimes they would be slightly off. One of them would be like part of a second off, and you could switch between the two, and you'd get this weird lag between the two feeds. It was really that annoyed the hell out of my dad too when I would do that, when I would switch the things back and forth. But yeah, KTXL was the independent station out of Sacramento. It's we had a big relationship with them. Pardon me. Maybe I'll have some water. Independent stations in the Bay Area. The San Francisco ones, which was KTVU, Channel 2 out of Oakland, and KBHK, Channel 44 out of San Francisco, which a lot of you have a lot of fond memories of the field communications. Originally Kaiser Broadcasting. It was originally Kaiser Broadcasting, and later Field Communications Station. WFLD is the one in Chicago that everyone knows because of the Fuzzy Memories. Posts a lot of stuff from that, and that's sort of a flashback for me because a lot of those same clips, the snippets, of course, which was a big field communications thing. Actually, again, originally Kaiser Broadcasting. The snippets were a big part of my youth. As Ben from the Oddity Archive has said, the art of the interstitial has been lost, and that was a big deal in field communications because The snippets, of course. They showed the most important person, which was this educational, I guess, short series of short films done by Sutherland Learning Associates, I think it was. It originally aired on the Captain Kangaroo show. I'd forgotten about this. But yeah, and I guess the field communication stations got the rights to them and would just show those in between commercials, I mean, in between the cartoons and things. And the other thing I remember, the other, like, really freaking weird interstitial they had was something called The Balloon Tree. And this was a short film. I think it was made around 1970. It's like whenever they had like 10, 15 minutes of programming to spare, they would show this short film. And there's like a children's book called The Balloon Tree, and it has nothing to do with that. I don't know where the title comes from. It's just like this kid running around New York. It was filmed around 1970, and there's all this great, period New York footage. I seem to remember him running around Central Park. I think it's Central Park. It seems like it's Central Park. When I went through Central Park, it did kind of look like that still, even though that was 2007, and this was way back in 1970. But, yeah, the only thing that really sticks in my head about that film, apart from the period New York footage, was him going into a house, sticking his hand into a vase and getting it stuck in there. And then he goes into the kitchen and gets out a butter knife and tries to get his hand out of there. And that's all I can remember of that. But yeah, KBHK was probably the channel that I watched the most, because they had all my favorites. They had the Looney Tunes, they had Popeye, they had Underdog. What else did they have? They had... I already said they had the Brady Kids. They had the Brady Bunch and they had the Brady Kids. I don't know if you remember what the distinction is, but the Brady Kids was the animated adaptation of the Brady Bunch. It was Filmation. It was made in the 70s, and they got the rights to it because I think they just were, milking that Brady thing for all it was worth, because it was one of their most popular reruns, and they got the rights to the Brady Kids, and they ran that into the ground. And the reason I know is because I was just like watching it, and I eventually watched it so many times that I had just memorized the dialogue. It's just like they would say things, and I remember when, what do you call it? I think it was TV Land got the rights to the Brady Bunch. They actually had this little special where they showed all these Brady Bunch related things, like, oh my god, Brady Bunch Variety Hour. And they showed an episode of the Brady Kids, and I was able to, like, predict the lines of dialogue before they came out. It's like, where the hell did that come from? It was because KBHK showed it over and over and over again. Oh, and the other one I remember that they showed was the Battle of the Planets, which I think was no, it wasn't my first experience with anime, because that would have been Speed Racer, of course. But this was like one of those shows that it was just like a big deal, because it was Star Wars was everywhere, so there was like this Star Wars-esque show, and we were all obsessed with it at school, and we that was talk around the playground. Ooh, did you see that latest episode of Battle of the Planets? Ooh, and it was just such a big deal. But yeah, that was KBHK. I'm wondering if I should even continue talking about this, because I've just talked so long. I'm thinking I might just extend this over into another vlog rather than just bore you with all this more talk. But I'll do a little bit on KTVU, which is Channel 2 right now, because they had some things over there that they would show. They had, speaking of interstitials, they had Bits and Pieces, which is like their like home produced version of Snippets. It was not like made for field communications or a certain thing, because they were like completely independent right there. They're a Fox affiliate now, but they were completely independent back then. So these were all in-house produced. Some of them had, what was the name of the Charlie and Muttley or something? These dog puppets that Pat McCormick, who was the weatherman for KTVU for years and years, used to do these puppets, and they would appear in those. And the other ones were just, sort of, B-grade snippets, really, shot on film and that kind of thing. But the theme song was one of the Brandenburg concertos, as done by Wendy Carlos, on the Moog synthesizer, switched on Brandenburgs, that sort of thing. I can't remember which one of the Brandenburg concertos it is, but it is one of them. And I think some of those have been posted to YouTube, so if you look up KTVU bits and pieces, they'll come up. But yeah, they showed... what did they show? I think they also showed some, like, Popeye and Woody Woodpecker and Looney Tunes as well. But I remember they also showed the 1960s Batman, the one that everyone makes fun of now. I have not seen that. Not Batman, Spider-Man, rather. The animated Spider-Man that everyone makes fun of now. That was basically my only... Because I didn't read comic books, that was basically my only connection with Spider-Man, was the 1960s cartoon show. But what the hell was it? I wanted to say... Oh, yeah. Back on KBHK for a second. I remember there was one of the Looney Tunes shorts, and I can't remember which one it was. But their copy of the film broke in one spot. But yeah, I can't remember which one it was, but before it got to like the end, the film broke. And this was just the way they would show it. They would just like show it until the film broke and cut to commercial. I remember that because I would see... I always waited to watch it on KTVU because they also had a copy of it. And I said, I want to see how that ends. Because the one they show on KBHK is incomplete. Anyway, we'll talk about more independent stations next week. This is just getting way too long, and I just don't want to bore you with way too much babbling. So we'll just cut it off here, and we'll see you around for now.